Meghan Markle is squaring up to the question of her life, the crucial question on which her entire future depends. And this is it. Can she recover from her devastating 8,000-word shredding in the current edition of America's most respected glossy magazine, Vanity Fair? If the answer's no, she is quite simply finished in Hollywood, dead and buried. Just another failed showbiz wannabe who didn't make the grade. Did Meghan really get a flunky to shop around testing interest in a potential post-divorce blockbuster book? If so, just what the hell is going on behind the gilded gates of the Sussex's Montecito mansion in the sun? You decide. But it's the persistent allegations of cruel bullying that have come back to haunt her. The so-called difficult Duchess has been fending off serious accusations that she mistreats staff for years. By palace workers in Britain, by long-suffering employees in California whose despairing stories were revealed by The Hollywood Reporter, and now by members of the ironically named Sussex Survivors Club, whose traumatic tales of woe led to the front page exclusive in Vanity Fair. One former minion who toiled in the Montecito trenches was reported to be so emotionally shattered by 3 weeks up close and personal with Meghan as she recorded her dreary podcast Archetypes, they had to head for the hills and needed long-term therapy to recover. Others rapidly quit their jobs to escape a ruthless, scheming boss who is described as, and I quote, really, really, really awful and very painful. Those who endured the former cable actress's alleged reign of terror chronicled how she constantly played mind games with her team, who never quite knew whether they were in her good books or consigned to the frozen wasteland of her haughty disfavour. A source recalled, "It's talking behind your back. It's gnawing at your sense of self, really like a mean girl's teenager." Under the disparaging banner headline, American Hustle, Vanity Fair methodically tears the Harry and Meghan fairy tale apart. But let's be clear here, this is no down-market hatchet job. That this excoriating expose is the result of thorough research can be in no doubt. Vanity Fair is not a sensationalist tabloid. Its journalism is measured and its reputation impeccable. Significantly, since this special edition hit the newsstands, there have been no denials from Meghan and her ever-protective husband. The beleaguered duo have merely let it be known that the bombshell article left them distressed. In fairness, Harry emerges from the mauling relatively well, depicted as a disinterested English aristocrat who doesn't really know what he wants, but would rather kiss babies on royal-style visits than have to worry about money. Insiders assert that the Duke of Netflix simply does not want to be famous in the way that Meghan does. Also, it must be said that despite the divorce book story, Vanity Fair stresses that Harry and Meghan remain very much in love, almost to the extent that it's them against the world. The prince is, by all accounts, a nice enough guy most of the time, but becomes agitated whenever he perceives that people aren't being pleasant to his beloved wife. I'm not going to knock him for being a loyal spouse, but am I alone in wondering what the hell Harry thought he was achieving when he filmically shook hands with firefighters who risked their lives in the Los Angeles inferno? After he was slammed for grief grifting when he posed for pictures with Meghan on their disaster tourist trip to the burning city, here he was again, starring in another dubious photo opportunity. What was it for? Why did he do this? Is it because VIP visits are all that he knows and somehow he's recreating his former life as a working royal in Britain when his regal appearances actually mattered? If so, that is infinitely sad. It is, isn't it, Reem?
It's incredibly sad. I've got to say, I think that from Prince Harry's perspective, it looks as though the relationship between him and Meghan are strained. And I actually think that a lot of this is led by Meghan herself. I mean, ultimately, she's the one that brought him over to the US, and he sort of followed her like an unknowing numpty. I mean, effectively...
It's a good description. It's about unknowing numpty.
Well, he had absolutely no idea what he was getting himself into. And I don't doubt that they are in love, but I do actually think that a lot of this is coming from Meghan. And it's just bad ops. I mean, it looks like he is effectively using these photo opportunities in order to make himself look good, in order to make Meghan look good. But in reality, they just come across as incredibly fake.
As I'm wont to mention, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. I know a lot of people there, and many Los Angelinos, as they're called, were appalled when they saw the Sussexes turn up in Pasadena to, shuffle through the embers of destroyed homes. They called it grief grifting. They called it disaster tourism. They called them tragedy vultures. That really didn't go down well. And then Meghan turned up the next day and did it again, as if somehow or other people think she's some sort of angel, and not just going there for a photo op. That's what people suspect. That's what people suspected of Harry as well. But Andrew, let's talk about the gravity of the situation they're in now. Now, back in September, The Hollywood Reporter, another very respected publication there in Los Angeles, yes. The Showbiz Bible of Hollywood, in fact, came out with this investigation, talking to 12 former members of staff, one current member actually, who called, as a boss, called Meghan a tyrant in high heels, prone to tantrums, shouting at people at 5 a.m, and reducing grown men to tears. Now, the gruesome twosome, Harry and Meghan, denied that and said, oh, this is just people with an axe to grind. Well, people were starting to believe this because there had been those bullying stories back at Buckingham Palace, where she was reported to have, again, reduced staff there, palace staff, to tears. So people were starting to take this seriously. They denied it, someone with an axe to grind. Now, Vanity Fair. This is, to say that this is an esteemed publication, yes. Is an understatement. It is America's show business Bible. It is a very serious publication that is taken seriously. 8,000 words. You know this. Yes. Those articles don't go in without going past a phalanx of lawyers. Yes. That story has been legally checked. And frankly, Hollywood, Tinseltown, many of us, we're saying that is true. She is a bully at work. She's got problems there, and I don't know if she can recover from this latest broadside that brands her a horrible boss. She's getting nowhere with her showbiz ambitions. This could be bad news for her.
It's definitely bad news. As you rightly say, Vanity Fair is so well respected and so balanced normally, and actually quite pro, I would have thought.
It was in the past.
And that's the thing, when you had that road to Damascus moment, when there's a convert, it's even more persuasive. And the wording that they use, quotes some people saying it's really, really, really awful, the behaviour. Yeah. And they talk about changing plots for the episodes and so on and so forth, the pressure, people having to go to the therapy as a result of the experiences. This is devastating news. And I can imagine Meghan reading this and being really quite upset. There was a couple of nice quotes of balance, saying she's a really lovely person. Maybe to that particular person, she was really lovely. But to the various others, it sounds appalling.
Yeah, well, when everything's going well for her and you happen to be in her good books, I think she can shower you with love. And people go, isn't she lovely? But when it's not going well for her, but you better steer clear of her.
It sounds like it's an open and shut case of narcissism. That actually what it is.
Both of them, I think.
I think probably from both of them.
But
I think he's slightly shyer.
Yeah.
I think what it is with Meghan is actually she is just a narcissist. She views things as everything happening in her way, and her entire life, her entire world has to revolve around her. Absolutely. And so it means that anybody that she ends up going into her life, anybody that is in her way, she will absolutely trample on them. Yeah. What I think you said that's really interesting, Kevin, is actually that, in the UK, we already know what she is like. We've already had the stories plastered all over the media. We know that she is quite nasty at work. But actually, the fact that this is now coming from a very well-respected publication. I mean, Vanity Fair, and I think Andrew's absolutely right. The fact that they were a convert, they initially were quite supportive of her. They ran some quite positive hit pieces about her, and now actually showing and revealing the real truth. And anybody that knows how these publications work know that they have to go through about 1 million people before they end up...
1 million people like Andrew.
a million people like me, and we get a
Like
quid for each
lawyers.
person.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly. A quid for each word.
After a life in newspapers, I know all about that. The
Yeah.
lawyers rule the roost.
Absolutely.
You don't pass the lawyers, it doesn't get in. So they would have been very, very careful about that. Now, I should have distributed matchsticks to you so you could put them in your eyes and not fall asleep, because here is a clip from one of her dreadful episodes of the most boring podcast series ever, Archetypes.
People should expect the real me in this, and probably the me that they've never gotten to know. Certainly not in the past few years, where everything is through the lens of the media, as opposed to, hey, it's me. I'm just excited to be myself and talk and be unfiltered, and yeah, it's fun.
Oh, God, doesn't that exude falsity?
But absolutely. But the problem is this. They said, look, and the follow-up question to that was, what are you going to talk about? And she didn't elaborate. She said, look, I finally got my voice. Well, what are you going to say using that voice? What they were really hoping is that she would get her Rolodex out, the digital equivalent, and everybody would come on board. And Taylor Swift apparently turned her down, and Meghan the Stallion turned her down, and various other people turned her down. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
If Meghan the Stallion turns you down, you've got a problem.
Yeah, Beyonce said no as well, because she's making a new series now. And also in the Vanity Fair article, Reem, it was revealed that, I mean, it's their dreadful ideas that they pitched to Netflix and Spotify when they still had the Spotify deal. One of their ideas to Netflix was Emily in Paris, only with a guy.
Oh my God. It's just insane.
Brian in Paris. Doesn't really have the same. But here's the thing. His idea, one of his ideas to Spotify, he never did make a podcast for them, but he said, why don't I, this is in the Vanity Fair article, interview powerful leaders around the world.
Why would they want to speak to him?
Well, more of that later. He suggested Putin, Trump, and the Pope. And they said, well, OK, that'd be great. Could you sort that? I said, oh, no, you'll have to sort it out. You know, he just expected to sit down.
Insane.
Then they said, well, what's the basis of you talking? They said, well, you see, they've all had, but like me, they've had very traumatic childhoods. Yes. And I want to know why they had a traumatic childhood and they turned out to be sociopaths, but I didn't. I didn't turn out to be a sociopath. And it's like, hang on a second. Well, there's two things about that. One, that is a really, really crap idea. Two, you'll find that Putin, the Pope, Trump are quite hard to sit down with. They don't just go, oh, hang on, I'll drop everything for your podcast. And three, if you say to them, and we'd like to find out why you're such a sociopath, they'll tend to say no, don't you think, Reem?
Well, of course, I mean, it's just bad comms for them individually, but this is just proof that Prince Harry, if he wasn't a prince, we wouldn't know who he was. He'd just be another loser that doesn't have a job. And then ultimately,
Dumbo.
Exactly, because he's married to, well, because he's a prince and because he is married to I actually used to quite like Meghan when she was on Suits, but, you know, everything after the public life and everything after marrying Prince Harry has been absolutely mental. And I think what's really interesting about this specifically is that they seem to continuously say, we want to be left alone, we want to live our life in the US without the attention of the media. So, oh my God, why do you keep trying to get into the media? It's mental.
Exactly right. Well, it was the Southport thing, wasn't it? You know, we want privacy. We want privacy.
Absolutely.
Southport. Southport. The Privacy World Tour. Yeah. Exactly right. Now, let's talk about the ramifications of this Vanity Fair.
Yes.
Because I do believe this is the end of the line. I think she's now finished in Hollywood.
Well, it sways public opinion.
Now, she's got a problem insofar as they recently, Netflix postponed her cooking show. Yes. It's called With Love, Meghan. And she should have called it I Love Meghan by Meghan. But
Me, myself and I.
They postponed that because of the LA fires. They thought that would be inappropriate. I've got some sympathy with that. It's not the time to release a light and trite lifestyle series. Now, that's coming out on March the 4th. Right. I believe that they postponed it, they delayed it in order to re-edit. Yeah. Because when they put the trailer out a couple of weeks ago, it was literally deluged with 1 million, don't approve, don't like, dislikes. People saying, not interested, not. Now, I believe the problem with this series is A, the bad publicity she's getting, and B, do we really need Meghan's advice her instructions on how to freeze edible flowers into ice cubes.
Well, if she got it right...
Could you live without that, Reem?
I definitely could, and I actually think that there are many other women that are much more capable of telling us a lot
Yeah, that's
more.
why is she qualified to do this?
Well,
I mean,
I'm
quite a keen amateur cook, but I wouldn't presume to say I qualify to make...
What do you like to make?
Well, I make all sorts of things. Dinner.
Food.
But if you get it right, the Martha Stewart effect, and looking at that without the difficulties, the multi-billion dollars that can be raised as a result of it, and that's what should have happened. She should have been
Martha Stewart, Nigella Lawson.
I love Nigella Lawson.
These people have got a platform. They've got a reason to be there, telling us how to cook, how to run our lives. They're experts.
But you're right. They've got to find a purpose in life. And I think it's more than just the ego side. I think it's also to do with vulnerability. And there's vulnerability on both sides. And this is why people are lashing out accordingly.
He is lost in America. He doesn't know what he's doing. As the Vanity Fair article says, nice enough guy, but has no idea where he's heading. And what he wants to do is just revert to royal tours, kissing babies, shaking hands, and she can make the money. Anyway, it is time now for a bad ad.
As a wife, mother, and former beauty pageant winner, I love to look my best. That's why I'm so excited about Sticky Nips.
With Sticky Nips, I feel sexy, I feel excited, and I feel wow.
Sticky Nips is an amazing miracle product that women all over North America and Europe are raving about. Sticky Nips are made to match your every mood, subtle, everywhere, and wow, for that sensuous look when you really want to be noticed.
Sticky Nips are like a fantasy come true. They've helped me get my sexy back.
No, I love America. I mean, I lived there 10 years, and yet every day in every way, that country still has the ability to surprise me. What the hell was that?
I don't really understand why one would want.
But don't women not like their nips sticking out?
I don't know. Well, I mean, some people...
Would you go for sticky nips?
I wouldn't, although I think it probably does give.
Oh, you wouldn't?
I wouldn't quite. No, I don't really know what they're for. I've heard of.
Well, then to make your nips stick out.
And they did say to reflect every mood. So you wonder what sort of mood.
Yeah, well,
if you're depressed, what do they do then?
I think the idea is that if you are sexually aroused, then your nipples are supposed to.
So sticky.
I think the idea is
so sticky nips give the illusion that as you walk around,
constantly
you're in a state of sexual arousal.
Or very cold. You can work on that.
Well, yeah, or very cold.
You can work on.
Are you cold or horny? What's the?
You could, ladies, you can get sticky nips, or you can put your tits in the fridge. Try that one. Let's go to a real break. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Yes, it's the big moment, the big story of the week, and I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever what the big story of the past week was. It was, of course, that magnificent inauguration of Donald Trump over there in Washington. What a sight it was. Well, let's remind ourselves. Here's Donald's inauguration in 60 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect of the United States.
I, James David Vance, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
Congratulations, Mr. Vice President.
Congratulations, Mr. President. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. Our top priority will be to create a nation that is proud, prosperous, and free. Our golden age has just begun. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you all. Thank you.
So, I mean, he's an extraordinary man.
Yes.
You talk about charisma. He may well be the most charismatic man on the planet. Even if you hate him, you can't take your eyes off him. What I loved about his inauguration speech was watching the faces of those dozy Democrats behind him. It was the Bidens, the Clintons, Obama, as he tore their world
They
to
were
shreds.
furious.
He took everything they stood for and and chucked it in the garbage bin of history. It was fantastic.
And he didn't just chuck it into the garbage bin of history, Kev. He also provided an entire alternative for what a free and prosperous America could actually look like. And I think that that's the real key here. He's not just talking about how terrible the last 4 years have been. He's actually also talking about what he will do over the next few years. And my God, he's not wasted any time. These executive orders have been absolutely brilliant. He's let the US leave out of the World Health Organization.
Only 2 genders. I love that one.
Only 2 genders. He said, if you're a federal staff member, you've got to come into the office. None of this working from home staff. And we're going to scrap EDI, the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion.
Yeah.
I really do think that if this week is anything to go by, things could go very well over the next week.
Not forgetting net zero. Forget
all that sort of stuff.
Drill, baby, drill.
It was punctuated with brilliant sound bites. And now that he's working with Mark Burnett, who was the person who actually created Trump for The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, yeah.
British
guy, of course.
Absolutely. It was the best speech I've heard Trump do. I did a watch-a-thon on telly with Elon Musk's father, Errol Musk, which was glorious. So we sort of spoke about that. He's on my show virtually every day. And what we talked about is looking at those sort of statements. He was brilliant. He then went on and do several more speeches which weren't quite as focused. He normally goes on forever. I think he only spoke for about 16 minutes, which was a surprise to everybody.
Yeah.
But as
short
I say,
for him, isn't
it was
it? I mean, he
very
normally
short
goes
for
on
him.
for a solid hour.
Yeah, then of course there are still the Trump haters.
Yes.
Just before we go on to the Trump haters, what I'd like to say is, somebody pointed this out to me. As he went through all of this, all of his new edicts, his presidential diktats, he basically said, right, no more of this. We'll close the borders.
Yeah.
We'll get rid of all these millions of illegal immigrants. No more of that net zero crap. There's only 2 genders. Everybody around the world, they're going, yeah, exactly.
We need this.
But you know what? Those Democrats, it's Keir Starmer, all that lot. This is like the emperor's new clothes.
Yes.
These dozy lefties for so long have been imposing on us their virtue signalling claptrap that doesn't do us any good. They've been fleecing us for their net zero nonsense, and the people of America are going, thank God. The dark era is over. We are into the sunlight. The trouble is we're still stuck in it here in Britain.
And also, I mean, ultimately, we're making ourselves poorer. I think one thing I'd
colder.
like to say, and colder. Well, one thing I'd like to say is the fact that he said, drill, baby, drill. We're going to actually drill for oil. We're going to be energy abundant. So we're going to have so much energy, it won't cost us anything. That means the cost of doing business will reduce. That means that old ladies can actually heat their homes. The fact that in this country...
That's an interesting policy.
Over winter...
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Well, indeed.
Well, let them freeze to death. That's the way...
That's the way that we've done
British
things.
way.
Net zero means that in the UK, we have literally allowed pensioners to freeze to death because we just don't want energy. Trump has said, you know what, we don't want any of that nonsense. We are going to be energy abundant, and that is the future.
And you compare it to then the charisma bypass speech, which we had from Keir Starmer. You have a look at that sort of side. Trump was, as I say, at his magnificent best on that day with those speeches, hitting each and every one of those policies. Keir Starmer just sort of let the whole side down.
The socialist government over here is reeling. It doesn't know what to do because, they can say what they like. And there's no special relationship between Trump's Washington and Starmer's London. There really isn't. Trump cannot overstate his contempt for Keir Starmer, David Lammy, and indeed the EU-obsessed new ambassador to Washington for Britain, Lord Prince of Darkness, Peter Mandelson. I mean, that's a crap appointment, isn't it?
It's an awful appointment, and the fact that he's going to be representing the UK in DC is really quite something to be worried about. The real golden egg here, the real star of what could happen for the UK is a free trade deal with the UK and the US. That would be amazing for both parties, both for American citizens and for British citizens. We could have cheaper goods and trade with one another. However, how likely is Trump to negotiate with Starmer?
I don't think he is going to. Now, let's think about this. One of the reasons that Labour are deluding themselves. Oh yeah, Donald Trump loves Britain. Well, he does. His mother was Scottish.
Absolutely.
He genuinely loves Britain, but he doesn't love this government.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he doesn't like this government is every single cabinet minister, pretty much, has over the years called him a nasty name. I mean, don't forget, David Lammy said he was a neo-Nazi. Our new man in
Insane.
Washington.
Yes.
Peter Mandelson, the great diplomat, said he was a white supremacist. And Keir Starmer is no slouch when it comes to slamming Donald Trump. Take a look at this.
Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around. I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump.
Yeah, not only an A-grade, Olympic-class, industrial-scale weirdo, but also a hypocrite.
No, he was crossing his fingers, I think, when he said that. But he wasn't the only one. If you look in 2016, JD Vance himself called Trump the American Hitler, but he had his road to Damascus. What I loved is what what he was saying is that the media misrepresented Trump. And when he realised what a brilliant president he was delighted to be his running mate.
So I, over Christmas, read Billy Elegy, which is JD Vance's book.
Yeah.
He talks about his history and the fact that he effectively came from...
His mum was a junkie, wasn't she?
His mother was a junkie. He came from some of the poorest parts of the US. And he has made himself... I mean, let's be very clear, not just is he successful politically, but financially and through the corporate world, he really did rise the ranks. He's been on so many amazing boards.
Yale, Harvard...
He was the American dream.
I mean,
he's a brilliant man. Yeah.
JD Vance, I think, represents the American dream, and he represents
the 48th president.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Andrew. That's a really good point. The idea that Trump is going to deal with this government, it's for the
crazy.
birds. It's
completely
for the birds.
crazy.
Now, he has made a lot of noises about the EU. He's definitely going to punish the hell out of them.
Yes.
Did you hear his speech? Did you hear his press conference the day after the inauguration?
Absolutely.
It was almost as if he had some kind of nervous tic. Every 3 words he said, the EU, I can't stand the EU. The EU should be nasty, really nasty to us. So
they are nasty.
So that's going to... And I'm not going to miss this opportunity. This is apropos of nothing. I just love saying this, right? Key moment in the electoral campaign between the Democrats and Kamala Harris and the Republicans. The only TV debate, Kamala Harris and them. This is for my money when Donald Trump won the election. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Oh my God.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. Now, as he said that, he's talking about... I love saying that.
Yes, brilliant. You're so good at it. I thought I was there.
As he was saying that,
yes,
appealing to Middle America.
Yes.
He was talking about Springfield, Ohio, which had indeed a city, I do believe, of something like 100,000 that just had 20,000 Haitian refugees dumped upon it.
Yes.
And they were taking ducks from the local park ponds. They were definitely doing that.
Yeah.
And the police, by the way, the city, they're not eating the dogs. The police said we've had no credible reports of that. In other words, you did have reports.
Yeah, you had some reports.
Anyway, the point was, that's playing to the crowd.
Of course
that is playing to the emotions that surround the migrant crisis. Brilliantly.
Really
As he said that, Kamala Harris was like this, all superior. Look at this. Oh. In other words, he understands people, she doesn't. We are sick to death of being told what to do by these bien-pensant woke Democrats. You know, part of her campaign policy, right? She expected to sell this to Americans was taxpayers should pay for male prisoners who want trans surgery, when they're serving life for rape.
It's insane. But the thing is, the problem is...
And you make a really good point as well, Kev, because what happens is when Kamala Harris basically did that sneering, she was sneering at all the people who believed what Trump was saying. And as a result, you're reinforcing that message against her. She didn't win over anybody as a result of it, and actually lost a lot of people. We had it over here as well, with people eating the swans. That was reported in certain places.
My friend JJ Anasiobi went to report on that.
Yeah.
He was sent to a park in Romford, East London, and when he got there were 3 guys walking past with a swan.
No.
And he went, you can't take that, and they just said, get out of the way.
God.
That happens.
Absolutely.
And it was happening, and I don't believe that it's out of the question that dogs were being eaten in Springfield, Ohio. But the point is, it was brilliant grandstanding, brilliant campaigning, understanding the people. He, as his inauguration proved, totally understands the American people, totally understands people in Britain as well, and the Democrats haven't got a sodding clue. Let's go to a bad ad.
Parafield Discount City Furniture, a whole lot of bargains, you should be there. Listen to the man and he'll tell you what's happening out on Main North Road.
Parafield Discount City Furniture challenge anyone to beat the price on this exclusive bedroom setting. Purchase the complete set or buy individually. Hurry, at these prices, stock will not last.
Parafield Discount City Furniture out on Main North Road.
It's open 7 days a week. That's a good thing.
I quite like that music.
Yeah, well, at this point, I would normally go, so Samara, do you get all of your furniture from Parafield? But Samara's not here, but we do Australian adverts. Yeah. Actually, America and Australia seem to compete with each other for the worst ads in the world.
The music was great, though.
The music was great. It was a toe tap. We are going to go to a real break now. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back to What Just Happened. It's a real blockbuster show. No Simon London, no Samara Gill, but these two, Andrew Eborn and Reem Ibrahim, are knocking it out of the park. As you know, regular viewers will know. Me, on the other hand, I'm having a very average week, but then again, I always do. Let's move on. This is the bit where we take viewers' questions. You very kindly always send us thousands of messages, thousands of questions, and we try to answer a few every week. And Andrew will be the question master.
Thank you.
So take it away,
Mr.
Eborn.
Brilliant questions from our brilliant audience, as always. The first one is, why didn't Keir Starmer reveal the terrorism details of the Southport attack? A brilliant question.
Because he's a liar for a kickoff. This, for viewers around the world, America, Australia, Canada, you probably will have seen this story, but the story gripping Britain right now is this awful monster, a kid called Axel Rudagabana, who back in the summer burst into a dance hall in Southport. It's a northern seaside town here in Britain, and basically stabbed 3 little girls to death, tried to stab 8 more, tried to kill 2 adults there as well, and was subsequently found to be in possession at his home fairly quickly, by the way. Same day, they found an Al-Qaeda training manual and ricin poison. Now, after this horrific massacre, I mean, Britain, we were shocked as a nation. So shocked that people started rioting. They started saying, this is a terrorist attack. They started saying, I bet this guy's a migrant. Bet he's an asylum seeker. So, you know, there was a bit of misinformation around. But the main charge of these people who went rioting, and by the way, of course, we don't condone rioting. No. But as they rioted, they said this was a terrorist attack. This was a terrorist. And Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, went onto the television and said, absolutely outrageous, it wasn't terrorism, and you are all far-right thugs. You're all far-right thugs. The Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, said any suggestion that this is terrorism is fake news, and these far-right thugs are spreading misinformation. No, I'll tell you who was spreading misinformation. It was the Prime Minister. It was Keir Starmer. It was the police. It was the Crown Prosecution Service. It was the local authorities. They were spreading misinformation. They lied to us. They said there was no terrorist connection. And for that, let me tell you, Starmer is trying to wriggle out of that. He lied to the nation, and we all know, and he won't be forgiven, will he, Reem?
He won't be forgiven. This story is always so difficult to talk about. I always just picture the 3 little girls that were brutally murdered at dance class. It really, really, really breaks my heart. I think any parents that are watching will feel that same way. I think what is really important to understand here is that this guy was referred to Prevent, which is the UK's prevention scheme for potential terrorists.
3 times.
3 times. He was being called for potential terrorist information. He'd been
caught in
flagged.
possession of a knife 10 times.
Been caught in possession of a monster knife.
Broke a kid's arm with a hockey stick.
He did. So there were so many different times in which this guy was very clearly interested in terrorist attacks. He had apparently researched about school killings about 10 times.
He was
it's
known
insane.
to the people.
And
sort of
so Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, was aware immediately. We know this now. This is all out in the open. It's the truth. We know that he knew, and he went to the public and lied. I think that's disgusting.
And that's the point. I always say trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. And the reality is trust in politicians, trust in the justice system, trust in sometimes the media is at an all-time low. What we need to look at is exactly what happened. They will say the reason they couldn't say anything about this sort of side is because you're not allowed to prejudice the trial. But to say the opposite and say, well, it wasn't terrorist-related, was a lie.
This nonsense about prejudice in trial, absolute crap. I know the law, you know the law.
Absolutely.
It's just not true. You can't prejudice a trial by charges. You know, what Starmer's trying to tell us is if the public knew that he was a terrorist, that would prejudice his trial for murder. Well, tough luck. That's the way it goes. You cannot not tell the public what the charges are. That's just ridiculous. He's just obfuscating there.
But it was the
there's
lie.
no basis.
It was the lie, as you say,
unless, you know, so what Starmer did when this happened, when the riots started, he panicked. And so he told lies in order to try and stop the riot. They're lying, they're spreading misinformation, arrest them, send them to jail, and that did work. What he should have said afterwards, he said, look, you know, I did this to stop the riots. Instead, he still holds the line, far-right times. Well, what they were saying was this was a terrorist attack, Mr. Starmer, and you said it wasn't. So you lied and they didn't. It was you spreading misinformation. Now, here's another thing. Look, if Axel Ruder-Cabana was a Millwall fan, a right-wing, you know, member of the ED, the English Defence League or something like that. Let me tell you, Starmer and the bien-pensant establishment, all the Westminster, he's a terrorist, lock him up. Now, of course, this was a young man of colour. This was a man born of immigrant parents, and our political elite do not like condemning people of that ilk. And lest you doubt that the authorities try to put this little bastard in a good light, why on earth did they put this picture out of him straight after he had horrifically slaughtered those poor little kids? That was him as a 12-year-old, an angelic schoolboy. They wanted us to think better of this awful little monster. You know, here's the thing, you know, I didn't really think better of him because I've got this kind of strange thing. When some bastard kills 3 little girls, I tend to think badly of them, and no amount of angelic little pictures are going to make me change my mind. And by the way, just in case you're in any doubt, here's what he really looks like. Look at that.
The tragedy is he won't get a life sentence because he did it when he was 17.
Well, we should explain. We are literally filming this show as Ruder-Cabana has spent the day playing games in Liverpool Crown Court. He was due for sentencing, pretended he was ill. By the way, in the holding cell before they took him up to court, he said, I'm glad those kids are dead. He said, I'm glad those kids are dead. It makes me very happy. They took him up to the dock. He started shouting and screaming, saying, I'm ill. And then the judge said, listen, you don't control these proceedings, I do. Well, thank you, Mr. Judge, but actually you did let him control the proceedings. He was taken down. He was brought back up. He started shouting and screaming again. He was taken down, and I believe he will be sentenced. He's being sentenced now.
You know, I cannot believe
without him being present. Now, what I think we should do, I'm sick to death of this. I don't want these establishment people to say, "Oh, you awful Neanderthals." This is what I want in future for little creeps like Axel Ruder-Cabana. I want the state to tell him you do not control the narrative. And here's how we tell him. You don't want to be in the dock? Right, you're going in the dock. You want to shout and scream? Right, we're gagging you and we're going to put you in a straitjacket.
I think he deserves death penalty, to be completely honest.
Well, we haven't got that, but how about...
It's absolutely insane that we don't have that. And also at the exact same time, the fact that because he's 17, he was 17 when he committed the crime, he couldn't get a life sentence is absolutely insane. People like him should either be put in prison for the rest of their lives or just get in the death penalty. America have got it right, I think.
Two things, Andrew. You're in the business.
So let me explain how it works.
Well,
go for it.
Would you agree? I mean, this is about telling someone like Rudy Kapana,
yes,
your life is over. The state now controls you.
Absolutely.
And they should force him into the dock, if necessary, in a straitjacket with a gag. Yes?
Absolutely. And what they're looking at, and there's all sorts of questions to be asked, and we make sure that there's a full report and who's going to be answerable and so on and so forth. What they're looking at is to make sure it's compulsory for all people who've been convicted to listen to the sentence. And what they're going to say is they're going to suggest that actually you'll add a length of time to it. But dealing with the point about the whole life sentence, it was a technicality because he was a few days away from his 18th birthday. Now, a whole life sentence means you get in for your whole life. Yeah. Because he was 17 at the time and as I say, just a snip off being 18, they only talk about life, but with a recommended period of time, which he has to serve before being let out on licence. So that's the problem, that sort of stuff. There needs to be discretion. We need to get trust back in the justice system as a result. And it's abhorrent what happened. The people, not just the terrible families that connected, seeing that in court as he, as you say, protested and saying, "Oh, I'm dying," all this sort of stuff, shouting, showing no remorse at all, must have been harrowing for the people.
He will be, right now, he'll be very pleased with himself because he led those very serious proceedings a merry dance. He controlled the narrative, and I don't think we should allow this. Now, going back to your point about sentences, whole life, for those of you around the world who might be a bit confused by the ludicrous British justice system, life here does not mean life. Often, a life sentence, you can be out in 15 years, sometimes even less. So we've sentenced people to life so it looks good in headlines. He got life. No, he didn't. He didn't. They'll usually be out fairly soon. However, we have a thing called a whole life sentence where the crimes are so serious that actually you do get life. You will throw away the key and you never get out. And Rudy Kapana should get that sentence. Now, the technicality that Andrew was just referring to is when he committed this heinous, just horrific crime, he was a few days off his 18th birthday. So as a 17-year-old, he cannot, under British law, get a whole life sentence. Now, I say we need to review all of this. Absolutely. We need to, as a nation, be able to make exceptions. Yes. And this guy should be an exception. Now, in case there's any debate about that, back when he first committed this offence, at first it was, we can't tell you his name because he's under 18. And people go, oh. And then a judge ruled, you know what? You can name him. He was only a few days short of his 18th birthday. On the same ticket, why not say he was only a few days short of his 18th birthday, whole life sentence? Why not?
You're absolutely right. And as you say, if they use the argument, you don't want to interfere with the trial, well, why show pictures of an angelic? That's a case for the defence. Yeah. So if you're going to turn around on that sort of basis, they should have addressed that, restore faith in the justice system really as a result of it.
You see, here's the thing, Reem. Not just in this case. I am sick to death of the way our establishment, the Westminster bubblegum, the great and the good, go to the ends of the earth to protect Muslims, Islamic extremists. So as I say, if Axel Rudy Kapana was a white Millwall fan and a member of the EDL, they'd have been down on him like a ton of bricks. Yeah. But for some reason, whenever it's an Islamic extremist, and by the way, that Al-Qaeda book, people are saying, there's no connection to terrorism. The police are still saying it. The Prime Minister now concedes there's a connection to terrorism. In fact, one of his charges is possessing information likely to be useful in a terrorist attack. But the police, the Merseyside police, are still saying no connection to terrorism. So we go to the ends of the earth to defend and protect Muslims and Islamic extremists, but if you're white and you're far right, oh my God, we're going to come down on you.
And the problem is, Kevin, is that it actually does the exact opposite. So my family are Muslim, I come from a Muslim family, I grew up Muslim. these are the very people, people that work hard every day, that are proud to be in this country, that are proud to be British, that many of them born here. This kind of issue, where actually what they're saying is we're not going to call out these disgusting people for what they are terrorists. It means that every Muslim is lumped in as
yeah, that's not fair either. Don't get me wrong.
No, but this is the point. When Keir Starmer tries to protect Muslims, so-called Muslims, and says, actually, these people are not terrorists, or we're not going to call them terrorists, that's really bad. What it does is it lumps everyone into that. It actually makes it worse. So what we should be, and this is the thing, so many Muslim scholars and so many people in the community have been saying, this is absolutely disgusting, this is absolutely outrageous, and yet it's white Keir Starmer that is trying to protect him.
And the point is, justice should be blind, and that's the whole point.
Exactly right.
Your race, your religion, the colour of your skin should not matter. If you are a criminal, you are a criminal, and that is it.
Yeah, but, this country, this nation, we are alone in the world. Every other Western country, especially America and the countries around Europe, are now confronting the brutal reality that we have a massive problem with Islamic extremism and Islamic terrorism. We pretend it doesn't happen. And all the governments do, what have they done in the slipstream of Axel Reed of Cabana? They've had a crackdown on online knife sales. Oh, that should sort the problem out. Time for a bad ad. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
Welcome back. This is part 4, sadly, the final section of this brilliant edition of What Just Happened. And this, of course, is the complaints department. This is where we run through some of the messages that you've been kind enough to send us. And usually it's all praise for me. Actually, it's not. But Andrew and Reem will run you through some of the points that you've been making over the past week. Ladies first, Andrew.
Thank you. Well, it's that guy with glasses is obnoxious. Yuck, won't be watching anything he's on.
Well, that's me.
Yuck.
Well, actually, yeah, that is me. The guy with the glasses. I'm the host. Right, Reem, what have you got?
Kevin is a right-wing effed idiot, as is his panel. Well, that's not very nice. Very mean.
Yeah, we get a lot of these. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. You noticed. Andrew.
What are you doing with your hands, Kevin?
It's true. Hands up. I mean, it's not my fault. These arms and these hands, they're like a separate entity. They're a law unto themselves. And so when I look at myself back sometimes, and I'm just going like this, like I'm trying to communicate with you with semaphore or something. Do you know what it means? Because people who are very
apparently people that are clever speak with their hands.
Thank you. No. Well, I'll take that. No, actually, what I've been told is that it indicates an intense desire to communicate.
Yes.
So it's almost as if I feel language isn't enough, so I've got to sort of signpost it as well. So anyway, I apologise for my arms, but they're nothing to do with me. Andrew.
And there's another one here. Fantastic. Why do people on this panel and channel what do they have against Native American people? As a native woman, you people sound extremely racist.
If they were racist, they wouldn't have me on.
Big thanks to Andrew Eborn. Good to have him on board on a sort of legally based show. And Reem Ibrahim, what a great job she did. Thank you very much to both of you. I'll be back next week, same time, same place for another edition of What Just Happened. Be there.